field now, for every field. For example, in the form here, so for input field, suppose I am using only one required attribute because more than one requires some more additional things to understand. Okay, required. So currently name has only one option, required. Now, what is the problem in form state is we know that it is not valid. It is not valid, but we don't know which one is not valid. Either mobile not valid or username not valid, we don't know. In that case, what we do is here, we will keep a simple span. We'll keep a simple span. And this span will have a class text danger. And in the span, I will simply write a message name required. This message should display when text is invalid. That means here we have to just define. So define how to show or hide this message. We have ng if. We can use ng if. Ng if it requires a Boolean value that depends on txt name dot, so valid, invalid. That means if it is invalid, then this should be displayed. And here you can see here, so it says name required message is there. Name required message is there. And I am typing some name, then immediately it is gone. That's great, good. Earlier to do such things, we need to write a lot of logic now in JavaScript, jQuery, everywhere. Now I am removing that name, then immediately it says name required. So I entered some name, then it is good. Now important is, sometimes what happens is, by default, we don't want message to display. We want message to display. See, generally, whenever a form opens, you don't want to show all error messages before they enter anything. So that means many times we need error message to show when they try to submit, or they went there but never entered any value. For example, we can use combination now. Combination means here we have to write a condition, that is here ng if txt name dot, if it is touched and double ampersand and it is invalid. That means touched and invalid, then only this message should come. That means I don't want to unnecessarily show the message by default. You can see message is not there. Suppose user went there, that means clicked inside that and came out without typing. Now the message will come. That looks good. Why? Because unnecessarily we don't show, see, on the form load itself, you don't show all error messages. So we ask him to start entering the values or click the submit, then we will verify and show the messages. So that means now this message, you can observe that on load, it will not show that message. But once you go there and came out, then it shows name is required. That looks better. I entered something, it's fine. So we can handle validation for every field individually. Validation for every field individually. But here a lot of problems are there. We need to handle them. So what is valid, invalid, touched, untouched, all these things we know. But how to use them with combination of input elements we need to learn. So here the point is, this is not enough every time. Why? Because sometimes every element can have multiple validations. Multiple validations means, you see mobile. Mobile is having two validations. One is required, another one pattern. If I say invalid, on pattern invalid also, it will return true. On required invalid also, it will return true. It should not be like that. We have to verify. We have to verify which one is invalid now. Is pattern invalid or required invalid? For that, we need some more additional logic to handle here. So initially, this is simple. So for one validation, it is simple, nothing special. That means here I am writing the syntax like this here. So a simple example. In the same example, you can implement this. But if there are many validations, then how you will handle? For every field, there are several validations. Currently, only one validation is here. But multiple validations are there. Then how do you manage them? And how to write our own validation? Because if anyone asks, like, I have a select drop down. For drop down, can I use required? You cannot use required for drop down. Then how do you know whether they selected a particular value from drop down or not? So there is no chance for that. That means you have to write your own validations. You cannot depend on these inbuilt validations every time. We have to write our own validation. That is what we call custom validation. We will see how to handle these two things, input validation and custom validation. One example. Then we can finish with this template driven forms that we will see tomorrow. So tomorrow we can finish template driven form with the input validation and some example on that. Then we can go with the dynamic forms. After dynamic forms, we are going to deal with very important topic, routing, how routing works. So then I can go into server side integration and other things we will learn, right? So tomorrow we will finish this reactive forms. How do we deal with reactive forms? Okay, right. Tomorrow we'll continue then. Thank you. Wherever the situation comes, we will discuss. Yeah, you will see that. Any example?